Welcome back to Homesteading with the Zimmermans, where we work hard and play hard on our little corner of land in Iowa. My husband and I were born and raised Old Order Mennonite, or horse and buggy Mennonite, as some refer to them as. And although we are no longer part of that culture or community, we are intentional about passing on the old-fashioned skills of our childhood to the next generation. You will want to stick around to the end of this video, because at the end of this video I am going to tell you how you can win a Bosch mixer like you see me using all the time in my kitchen, and also a Bosch dehydrator, which if you win that, I'm gonna be very jealous because I don't even have a Bosch dehydrator, and I know that their products are top-notch. Hello friends. In today's video on our channel, Homesteading with the Zimmermans, I'm going to be making whoopie pies. Now, whoopie pies are these cake-like cookies that have frosting in them, or whoopie pie filling. And whoopie pies are a Pennsylvania Dutch food. If you live on the East Coast, you can probably buy whoopie pies almost anywhere at any market you stop. Well, there's a couple different kind of whoopie pies. There's chocolate, and then there's the waffle whoopie pies. Well, the chocolate whoopie pies are the original whoopie pies. The legend behind the chocolate whoopie pie is that Amish and Mennonite women wanted to have an easier way to pack lunches for their husbands that were working out in the field, or, threshing wheat at a neighbor's house. So a cake was fairly hard for them to send in a lunch because, they didn't have plastic wrap, things like that. So what they started doing is baking these little cakes and putting the frosting in between the little cakes, and that was easier for them to pack in lunches. Well, legend has it that when they would open their lunch boxes and see these little cakes, they would yell "Whoopie!" And that's the way that these little pies got the name Whoopie Pies. So the chocolate is the original. There's oatmeal, there's chocolate chip, and then there's the waffle whoopie pie, which is probably more of a modern invention. But in today's video, we will be making whoopie pies, and don't forget, your recipes will be linked in the description, along with a couple different frosting recipes. I used my favorite frosting in the waffle whoopie pies. And remember, if you use butter instead of shortening in your frosting, you will want to store your whoopie pies in the refrigerator, because your butter is not shelf stable as the temperatures in your home go up and down, but they'll store perfectly in the refrigerator or even in the freezer. One of our favorite ways to eat, especially chocolate whoopie pies, is straight from the freezer. Good morning, everybody. It is Easter weekend, and we are filming on Friday, on Good Friday. The children do not have school. They will not go back to school until Tuesday, but because we want to go out of town to the Iowa Homestead Expo, we're going to film this extra early and get it uploaded. So we're going to get started with whoopie pies. The original recipe calls for oil. And although, I've used vegetable oil plenty of times in my whoopie pies, but as we have shifted towards being more self-sustaining, I've started using lard, because I'd have to buy my vegetable or olive oil, but the lard, I already have plenty of it on hand from harvesting our hogs. And if the recipe does call for vegetable oil, I would use olive oil or the healthiest oil available to you if you don't want to use lard. So 2 reasons we raise this ourselves, and nutrition wise, those are the 2 reasons I'm going to use lard instead of oil. And I will need to add about 1/8 cup more of lard than I would of vegetable oil. And where your printable recipe is, I will put those substitutes and measurements in for you. So on my recipe here, it says do not double. And I always have a little bit of a conflict in my spirit, because the reason I wrote do not double is I would often make this recipe like Mom did, but I would make it when I had lots of little ones underfoot. And it's not that I didn't need so many whoopie pies for the family, it's just that it was an all-day deal to make a double recipe of whoopie pies. But now, I always get to this place where I'm like, if I only make a single recipe, they'll be all gone. By the time family dinner is over and we eat some for breakfast, then the whoopie pies will be all gone. And if I've got Hadassah to help me, and if Stacy's coming to help me, then I probably could double. But I have, in capital letters, do not double, because I always run into trouble with babies that need me and toddlers, and I still had all these whoopie pies to take care of. But I do think that we're going to make a double batch today. What do you think, Kendrick? Should we make a double batch today? Yeah. Okay, so I've got my fat or oil. So I need 5 cups of sugar. So I need 6 egg yolks. And I'm using some duck eggs. So now we're going to cream together our fat and our sugar and our eggs. So I need 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Need my salt. And remember, I'm making a double recipe. Okay, so I've got my hot water, and in my hot water, I'm going to dissolve my unsweetened cocoa.
You're making hot cocoa?
Does it smell like hot cocoa? This is for chocolate whoopie pies. So we're just gonna mix this together until it's all dissolved. And then we're gonna add that to our egg and sugar mixture. Hey, Stacy.
It smells like ice cream.
It smells like ice cream.
It literally smells like chocolate ice cream. Kendrick, come here. You got your lemon ice cream. You got your lemon ice cream and it's going in your face.
Okay, so the next thing we're doing is, this is buttermilk. This is cultured buttermilk. So normally when I make butter, I toss that skim milk to the pigs unless I have an idea of something I want to make with cultured buttermilk. So then I take that thin fat-free milk that I get from making butter, and I let it sit on the countertop until it cultures. So this is cultured buttermilk. I need 3 cups of cultured buttermilk, and I'm just going to use this same container. 3 cups of buttermilk, and then into that 3 cups of buttermilk, you're going to add your baking soda to your buttermilk, because that helps to activate the baking soda. You're just going to stir that together. So because I made a double recipe, I don't have room to add the flour into this dish, so I'll have to stir the flour in by hand. So my recipe calls for 4 to 5 cups of flour, so I need 8 to 10 cups of flour. So we're gonna mix in 8 cups of flour.
That looks good.
I added the smallest amount of flour, which was 8 cups, and now we're gonna bake 2 cookies and see how they turn out. If they get too flat, we will add more flour because we can't take flour out of our recipe. So we always want to start with the minimal amount of flour, the minimum amount of flour listed. These look like they're doing beautifully. They're not done yet, but I can tell how they're puffing up that I've got enough flour.
Cute and tiny.
I know, I like those.
That one picture. I want that.
So because this cookie batter is very similar to cake batter, you are going to know that they have baked long enough, the same way that you would know that a cake has baked long enough when the center is touched and it springs back just a little bit. And then you can fill, when Das has got one cleared, you can fill it again.
Nope.
So while the girls work on the cookies, I'm gonna work on the filling. And the original whoopie pie filling recipe calls for shortening. That's the main recipe you'll find. Shortening assures that your whoopie pies are shelf stable. But I'm going to make a version of buttercream frosting, and I will just store them in the freezer and the refrigerator, since that's the way that we prefer our chocolate whoopie pies anyway. So I've got all this butter left from the wedding a month ago, and because we're short on homemade butter, because our Jersey cow is dry right now, I'm just going to use up this butter that was left over from the wedding. So we're going to cream together our butter and our powdered sugar for this buttercream frosting. And in the description of this video, I'm going to have a link to my favorite frosting and filling recipes, and then you can choose your favorite filling to put into your whoopie pies. But this is a traditional buttercream frosting. So one of the things that I do when I make whoopie pies is I take those leftover egg whites from making the batter and I whip them up real good and put them in my buttercream frosting instead of using the milk. And if it gets too thin, I just add a little more powdered sugar until it's the consistency that I want it to be. So next we're going to wrap each whoopie pie individually because otherwise they tend to kind of stick together when we store them. And we're going to store these in the refrigerator and the freezer to use in lunches throughout the next couple weeks. So the next kind of whoopie pies I'm going to make is a small batch of waffle whoopie pies. These are a lot of fun to make, and they're a great cookie to make if you don't have access to an oven or don't want to use your oven. So I've got my softened butter and I'm just going to make a small batch. I've still got some buttermilk to use, and we still have chocolate whoopie pies, so I'm just going to make a small batch, and I'm going to make it real simple and quick. And the children, when they come home from school today, will be excited to have a little bit of a special treat. To my 1 cup of butter, I'm going to add 2 cups of sugar. My recipe asks for 4 eggs, but I'm going to use these turkey eggs instead of chicken eggs. And because turkey eggs are so much bigger, I'm just going to use 3 of them. Oop, I got a shell in there. All right, the best way to get shells out, if your egg is clean, is to use the shell to get the shell. There we go. I got those shells out. So sometimes the make it or break it kind of deal for me is getting my mixer out or not. Sometimes I'm like, I should bake cookies, and then I think of getting my mixer out and having to set it up and put it all back again, and I'm like, it's not worth it for a single batch, and I don't have time to make a double batch. So I often revert back to the way my grandma did it and just use elbow grease instead of getting my mixer out. The other thing is, I store my mixer in the pantry because I don't have a lot of counter space, so I can't store it. I don't want to store it on my counter because I need all my counter space for actual working space. So we're just going to mix, we're going to cream the butter, sugar, and eggs together by hand. So we're going to add our vanilla. Now I need 2 cups of, my recipe says sour milk. What that means is cultured dairy. So I'm using my naturally cultured buttermilk. And then into my buttermilk, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking soda and let that activate. Into the rest of my batter, I'm going to add my 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm going to add my 1 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to add my cultured dairy. And we're going to start with 4 cups of flour. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to stir in 2 cups of chocolate chips. And it's time to get our waffle iron ready. Okay, so I've got my waffle iron on medium, and instead of using the spray oil, I have some melted tallow and a silicone brush, and I'm just going to use tallow to make my waffle iron a little more non-stick. And then I'm gonna use my biggest cookie dipper. I'm gonna fill it to heaping. And I'm gonna close it up. After 3 to 5 minutes, your waffle cookies will be all done, and you can remove them. So for these whoopie pies, I am going to show you an old-fashioned cook type of frosting. So it gets 1 cup of milk, 5 tablespoons of flour, and you're going to heat this together until your flour is all dissolved. So your flour and milk is going to get thick, kind of like a cream soup would. So it's important to keep stirring it as you heat it to keep it from scorching to the bottom. And you can see it start to thicken a little bit. It's going to be a little lumpy, but that's okay because you're going to cream this frosting together really well. All right, we're going to remove that from the heat, and I'm going to keep stirring it a little bit as the pot cools down. That's about how thick you want your flour and milk mixture to be. And now we're going to cool this while we finish making our waffle cookies. Okay, now for the frosting. I've got my 1 cup of butter. I'm going to add my 1 cup of sugar and my vanilla. And we're going to mix this together really well. Okay, so my flour mixture is cool. So I'm going to add this. Okay, so one thing that my mom and grandma, one of the many things my mom and grandma taught me is that whenever a dish gets vanilla, like when I ask for vanilla, you always need salt. Because salt enhances the sugar and vanilla together. So always, a lot of frosting recipes do not ask for salt, but my mom and grandma taught me to always put salt in. So about 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and of course this will all be linked in your description. can have some milk to go with them.
Fabric! And the blueberry! No. I'm in chocolate chip.
Did you find
Oh,
all
yeah,
your
we
stuff?
can.
Yeah. Hey, Harrison, wash your hands first. Okay?
Okay.
These are good because the frosting goes in those little holes.
And if you won't believe what you are going to see. Can I have one?
You first go wash your hands.
I did.
With soap?
Yeah.
Okay. You want milk to go with it?
Uh-huh. They had pigs. Oh, that was so good.
Are they good? Now, about the giveaway. My friend Michelle Visser and I are participating together in a month-long pantry challenge over on Instagram. So what we're doing is each week we're helping you replace one item from the grocery store with a made from scratch item. So find both of us over there on Instagram, and as part of this challenge, we are giving away, like I mentioned previously, a Bosch mixer and a Bosch dehydrator. This giveaway is gonna run all through April, and it closes on May 5th at midnight. How to enter this giveaway? In my description, there is a link to Michelle's blog, and you can enter every day for this giveaway. So I am so excited for you guys to have access to this giveaway, and good luck.